Hey guys, I wanted to do just a quick video here explaining our final project. We had several students who were not in class the day that I explained the expectations for the final project, and we may have had some students in class who just weren't paying attention when I was going over the expectations for the final project. So if you fall into one of those two categories, this video is for you. The final product is going to start when you guys get to the Canvas page. What I need you to do is scroll down. We're going to go all the way past the Friday Student Newses or the FSNs, and you should see a category here that says Final Project. All you have to do is click that link. Okay? What I want you to do, and you can do this in a Pages doc or a Google Doc or a Word doc if you want to, so you can kind of save your progress as you go. But what I want everybody to do is I want you to start right here up at the top, Current Events Project, select everything that you see all the way down to the very bottom, and then I want you to copy that information. Okay, you can paste that into a Word doc, a Pages doc, or a Google Doc, or if you just come up here and click this little green button that says Start Assignment, you can literally just come down here and paste everything into the submission window. So when you guys submit your final project, I want all of this information in the submission window. And it's going to be nice because you guys can just go into each individual section and just type your information in there. And then that'll be really easy and convenient for me to grade. So up here at the top, notice that I want you to do your writing in a red colored font. That's going to help that stand out from these sections. So the way you do that is you come up here, select red, and then you're going to come into this first category right here, and this is where you're going to type your topic. You can literally choose any topic that you would like, but before you start, make sure you read this information right here, because it explains the difference between a contemporary issue and just a standard news story. So please make sure that you read this first paragraph. A contemporary issue must have two arguable points of view. Okay, so if you have questions like, hey, I want to do this topic, but I don't know if it constitutes a current events or contemporary issue, just ask. I've also given you guys some examples down here of some topics that you could choose from. Keep in mind, you can do a topic that we've already covered this semester. So like we've talked about abortion this semester. We've talked about the Russia-Ukraine conflict this semester. We've talked about a bunch of these topics, so you're free to use those. I'm going to use school choice as my example, just to kind of show you guys how I want this to roll. So I'm going to come up here. Remember, I've got my red font right up here. I'm going to click in and I'm going to type school choice. And I'm not exactly sure why that didn't put that in red, but we'll come up here and hit that. So school choice is going to be my topic. So I'm going to scroll down from there, and I'm going to come into this first claim and counterclaim. So think about this as kind of like your two argument points. Obviously, some people are going to argue that school choice is a good thing, and some people are going to argue that school choice is a bad thing. So that's where you're going to put your two claims, right? Students and parents being able to choose which school or which school district they attend is a good thing, because some students are trapped in a school district that's not doing very well. And then you would come down here to the counterclaim and you would say something like, parents and students having school choice and the freedom to attend whatever school or school district they want to is a bad thing, because that means some school districts and some schools are going to be overcrowded. The student population in those schools, those more successful schools, are going to be incredibly high, which means the class sizes are going to increase and the teachers are going to be teaching more students at once. And then the school districts that aren't doing as well are going to shrink in size. The student classroom sizes are going to be very small, and then those school districts may or may not receive as much tax funding. So those are my two claims. Remember, you need to type that in at least two sentences. So you need to have two sentences for your claim You need to have 2 sentences for your counterclaim. Okay? Then you're going to come down here. And no fewer than 3 sentences, I want you to summarize your personal beliefs about the topic and describe why you have those beliefs. So you're going to come down here, make sure that your red font is selected, and you're going to type your own personal beliefs about the topic and why you hold that belief. The next section is where you're going to actually go out and do some research. So I said identify a minimum of 2 print media sources. You're probably not going to go to the library. I know that a lot of you don't have magazines and newspapers, so website publications will be sufficient for the print media. Okay, you need to find 2 of them that support your claim. Whatever your personal belief is, find 2 sources that support your claim. Remember, your sources must include data and statistics and or quotations from experts on the issues. So this can't just necessarily be some, Instagram post where nobody's actually providing any data or statistics or quotes from experts. All you're going to do is wherever you find that article, select, copy, and paste the URL literally right here and make sure that that is in red. And then in no fewer than 3 sentences, you're going to summarize the content of the publication. So you're going to put that summary right here. I don't know why it keeps not doing red font, but you're going to put your summary here. And then there's a space to put your data, your statistics, and your quotations. So put it directly into the submission window. Okay, so you're going to do that for 1 source, and then you're going to do the same thing for a second source. Okay, so you need to have 2 print media publications. Then you're going to come down to this section. You're going to identify 1 video or audio source. So you guys could use YouTube, a podcast, radio interview. You could watch a documentary. Any of that stuff is totally fine. Something that supports your claim. Very similar to the print media sources, you guys need to embed the URL link. Now, if you're using like a Netflix documentary or an Amazon documentary or an Apple documentary or something where you're not going to be able to copy and paste a URL, just give me the title of the documentary and tell me which streaming platform you found it on, or if you watched it on a DVD, make sure that you put that there. Same thing, you guys need to give me a minimum of a 3-sentence summary of the video, or audio, or podcast. And then you need to come down here and you need to list any of the data or statistics or expert quotations. So you're basically doing the same thing for the video and the audio sources you did for the print media sources. Now we're going to move on. This is the exact same thing that I just explained at the top, but you need to find 2 print media sources that oppose your claim. Okay? Same thing. Post your link here in no fewer than 3 sentences. Summarize, okay, the print media sources, and then make sure that you're including the data and statistics from the ones that oppose your point of view. Okay? Remember, I'm here to help. So if you're struggling finding some sources, you're struggling to find a way to, attack your own point of view, please let me know. You need to do that for 2. You need to find 2 sources that oppose your claim. And much like we did before, you need to find a video or audio source, a YouTube, a podcast, a radio interview, documentary, same thing. But remember, this time it needs to oppose your claim. Summary here of the video or podcast or whatever. Make sure that you're including data and statistics. Okay, put those straight into the submission window or your Google Doc or whatever you're doing. And then the last part, okay, toward the top of this assignment, I asked you to summarize your own personal beliefs about the topic. To finalize the project, I want you to create a viable argument, not a sarcastic argument, okay, not something that's poking fun at the other point of view or whatever, a viable argument that runs contrary, meaning against. Contrary means against, going against your own personal beliefs and opinions. In no fewer than 3 sentences, create a realistic counter argument that could be used to break apart your own logic and rationale. This is probably going to be the hardest part. Okay, but remember, I want you guys to be informed. This isn't just I have an opinion, I'm going to find sources that support my opinion, and I don't care what the other side or the other person has to say. No, okay? That's not a realistic way to have a conversation with somebody, to have a debate with somebody, to have an argument with somebody. You need to be informed on both sides of the argument. And once you've done all of those things in a red font directly into the submission window, you guys can either copy and paste it from a Google Doc, a Word, or a Pages doc, and post it straight into the submission window. And then you need to click that submit button. Okay? Scroll down. You guys can see everything that you typed. All right? And that's it. My guess is this is going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, the seniors, your final is next Tuesday. So you guys need to be on top of this. Take advantage of the class time. You may have to work a little bit over the weekend. And then everybody else, your final submission is the Friday after Memorial Day. Now, if you guys want to turn this in early, great. Turn it in early. Get it off your plate. Don't worry about it. No big deal. And remember, if you guys have any questions, please ask.